because you're just going through and practicing sketching your quadratics and getting more and more, and you'll get to the point where you can just use technology to help you with certain things. So a couple of questions. So for starters, with a sketch, can you please make sure that you use a ruler for your axes? Now I get that sometimes in your workbook you're just going and you do it quickly. That's okay, but you want to get into the habit of using a ruler. Even if it's your ID card, make sure that it's straight lines for your axes. A y-intercept is a must, and you should actually label it. Luca? Right, now depending on how much information you're given or what the question is asking, we're getting to the point where we should be able to label our x-intercept and vertex. Sometimes it might be just the vertex, sometimes it's just the x-intercept, so judge the question, but they need to be labelled. It's not just I see this graphy shape, they've got to have the label on it. We will be introducing a thing called the axis of symmetry. I'm going to show you, that's coming soon. And you've got to make sure that your graph is symmetrical, so nicely shaped. One of the questions that we had, and I answered it to a few people individually, but neglected to do it to the whole class. But some people were just asking, what's this f of x business? It's just a fancy y. It means a function in x. And it's handy for notation, because if I have like f of x, it doesn't just have to be a quadratic, it's anything. Let's just go linear. If f of x equals 3x plus 4, right? That's the same as if I had y equals 3x plus 4. But if I now said, find y when x equals, I don't know, 2, we're watching. Instead of me writing this, and I haven't even said find y, all I have to do is say f of 2 equals. And that's saying when x is 2, find out what the y value is. So it's just handy notation, and they're just easing you into it. If we scooch down and look at some of the applications that you're going to be using soon, oh, hell's bells, lots of work for you. Aren't you lucky? All right. Right, we've got the profit obtained. So P for profit, and N stands for a fleet of N taxis, number of taxis. Okay, then we've got capital T for temperature, little t is for time. So it just helps with the notation instead of everything always being y and x. Does that make sense? All right. So, Elle, you can carry on because I think you're up to 7. I'm doing 5. Oh, I'll see in a minute. So number 5, we're just plodding along. Do people think they can do it, or do we need a little bit of a rehash? Rehash? Okay. So even if you haven't done 5, can you pay attention? And these might help you with some of the earlier ones as well. Okay, so number 5, consider the quadratic function. Write the function in this form. So as soon as I see this, well, I am thinking, complete the square. Agreed? So I'm writing that down. We've got y equals x squared, take 8x plus 14. I hope you're just rolling your eyes at this point going, oh my goodness, completing the square. I can do that in my sleep. So we focus there. What does that mean goes in our bracket? Excellent. We go x take 4 because we are dividing this by 2. We know that when I expand this perfect square, I will get the x squared. I'll get that minus 8x, but what else do I get? If I expand this, won't I also get 16? I've added in 16, so I'm going to take off that 16 to keep it even, and then I've still got that plus 14. Okay, we're not putting it on the other side because I'm not solving. I'm just wanting y equals x take 4 squared minus 16 plus 4 is minus 2. What's the benefit of having it in this form? We can graph it. What else? It's got a special name, this form. It's called the V. That was meant to be an E. Oh. I can't do an R. Y, E. Hang on, I can scratch. I couldn't do it. Could I do X? vertex form. Anyway, so what is the vertex then from this? Well done, yep. So 4, -2, remember reverse the sign, keep the sign. From just looking at the equation up here, I also have another piece of information that I can just plop right there. What is it? The y-intercept. The y-intercept occurs when x is 0, so my y-intercept is 0, 14. Do I know anything else? No, Zoe, on a roll. What is it? It is convex. Why is it convex? Because it's positive here. Now, hopefully we know convex means it's like so. So, write the function in the form, done. Hence, sketch the function. All right, so we get our ruler. Little bit to the right. Oh, didn't think blue was coming out there, but anyway. All right, so it's across here at 4. It's down at -2. And it's got a y-intercept up here at 14. Now, it's not to scale. I put a new term up there before, axis of symmetry. Anyone want to have an idea of what axis of symmetry is?
It's the line where the turning.
Yep, it's the line in the middle, the one that goes straight through the turning point. Okay, and so that, oh, so big tip, draw your curve and then label your y-intercept after. Trying to fit it all through is quite difficult. So that is now 4 minus 2. Sweet? How many x-intercepts does the function appear to have? 2, right? So we think 2. Psst, boys. Solve to check your answer. Now, when we solve it, so we're solving x squared, take 8x plus 14 equals 0. How do I solve a quadratic, peeps? I could go quad formula. What else could I do? Try and factorize, right? I spend a little bit of time. What are the factors of 14? 1 and 14, 2 and 7. It doesn't look like that's going to give me 8. Right? So I've got a choice. I can go quad formula. What about looking at this bit up here? Can I have everyone's attention, please? Would you agree that this is also the same as 0 equals x minus 4 squared plus 2? Do we agree? Oops, take 2. Yes? So instead of going the quad formula, couldn't I just play around with this? Put the minus 2 on the other side. You've got 2. X minus 4 squared. How do I get rid of the squared? And how do I get rid of the take 4? You add 4. Now, if you went ahead and did the quad formula, you'll get the same answers, but you've probably done a little bit more work. So we're all about trying to do the least amount of work possible. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And how would we check that we are correct? Calculator, calculator, and away you go. So, you are practicing as you go. Tristan. Aaron. Sorry, Tristan. I was looking at Max and then you before. Some of the questions that you're going to do at this point, you can use the vertex formula to help you solve. Some of it you could factorize. You're going to mix it up. Is there a right or wrong way? No. It's just that some might take you longer, some will be shorter. So look for the better option. Does that make sense? So I'm going to shut up and you're going to just keep plodding along through. You've got we're just sort of going through. So please read the things. We've done all the skills, I believe. It's just now reading examples and going through. Hello. Yes. Wait. 19D, some of you have already figured out, and you're listening because this will save you work, there, Bear. You'll do less work. For 19D, for each of the following graphs, find the equation of the axis of symmetry. So we talked about the axis of symmetry has to be right smack bang in the middle. Do we agree? So it means it must go boop, 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 boop. So what would it be? Okay, now, here's what you have to realize. When you say an axis of symmetry is equation, so we're going to say x equals 2. Don't just tell me 2. It's got to be x equals 2. And that is why, David, when I was asking you to state your y-intercept and even your x-intercepts, we want to actually say my y-intercept is something like 0, 4. We're not going to say y equals 4 because this is a coordinate, which is what a y-intercept is. Y equals 4 is actually a horizontal line. So we need to now be really, like it used to be, yeah, I know what you mean. When you tell me my y-intercept y equals 4, I know what you mean, but now we're starting to be really specific. All right? Reading and writing are mathematics nicely. What about here? What would my axis of symmetry be? Right smack bang in the middle, x equals 1. What about that one? Anyone worked out how they're doing it quickly? How are you doing this very quickly? Add them together. Divide by 2. Minus 5 plus 1 is minus 4. Divide by 2. X equals minus 2. So when we have our x-intercepts, you can just find the vertex really quickly by finding the middle. Do we agree? So I don't know if you want to write that down or not. That's up to you. So now when we come to question number 2, it's nicely factorized. So instead of you having a diagram, they're telling you now, well, x equals 2. My y-intercepts are 2 and 4. So we can find the middle of 2 and 4, can't we? So that'll just be x equals 3 will be my axis of symmetry. So 1 and 2, similar. 1's a picture, 2's an equation, but we can still see the x-intercepts. Do we all agree? What happens, though, when we get to question 3? Does it mean that you actually have to factorize to find your x-intercepts? It doesn't. I want to reintroduce a friend of yours. Your friend and mine, the quadratic equation. Eyes this way, please. Your vertex and your, axis of symmetry will actually be this bit here. Because if you think about it, your 1x intercept is minus b over 2a plus square root over 2a. And then your other x-intercept is minus b over 2a take square root over 2a. So the thing that remains constant in the middle, right, your axis of symmetry, so this, can you make sure that you've got this in your notes? Your axis of symmetry is x equals minus b over 2a. And for students who say, oh, will you give that to us? No, I won't give it to you because it's part of your quadratic formula. It's just that minus b over 2a. It's there. They're going to make you do this, and they go on to a whole other exercise and then talk about how you can then find your vertex. So we're going to put a formula for that in a minute. I'll just stop and let you write it down. If we're looking at 3a, we've got y equals x squared plus 4x plus 1. And we'll go, okay, my axis of symmetry will be minus b over 2a. So what's my b? So minus 4 over 2 times a is 1. So over 2, so it's minus 2. So x equals minus 2 is my axis of symmetry. So remember, if it's something, like this, I've got 2, something is my vertex. Agreed? So my vertex is 2 something. How do I find my y value? If I make x 0, that will be my y-intercept. I want to know when x is minus 2, what's y going to be? Sub. Where do I sub it? Into the thing that says y equals. Would you agree? So to get my y value here, I'm going to sub it back up there and I'm going to say minus 2 squared plus 4 times minus 2 plus 1. So I get 4 minus 4 plus 1 minus 3. Agreed? Agreed? So for a mathematician to write this as a formula, we'll go, okay, we all agree our x value is the minus b over 2a, but how can we say for the y value, sub that back in to the equation? I haven't got enough room, have I? So watch what we write. We go f of minus b over 2a. And that's what that means. Remember we said f of x is fancy for y? So that's just saying, go back to your function and slap your x value back in. So if you want to, I'll write that there. That just means sub your x value back into original. Make it sense? So for 19D, do I need you to do every single question? I don't think you have to do question 1 and 2 if you don't want to. I think it's obvious. But if you want to practice, you can. For question 3, yes, you're finding your vertex. Be careful that they change. A is not always 1. Sometimes, ooh, it will be a fraction. So practice. And then all they're going to ask you to do for E is to now sub that value back in to get your vertex. Can we handle? Looking at your examples if you get stuck.